welcome to the Christmas Tree Pillow Stitch Along. And a big thank you to everyone for participating. We were overwhelmed with the response, and I'm excited that you'll all be stitching along with me, and hopefully we'll have a pillow by Christmas. I'm Sue Spargo, and today we're going to cover the supplies, how to piece your background, pressing seams, circle placement, wool applique, and a quick note on a pattern correction. So let's go ahead and get started. In your kit, you'll have two pieces for the background. So you're going to cut those the size that's specified in the pattern, and we will insert this little strip between these two. And I love the fact that we're using the little sparkle wool for this. It's just perfect for Christmas. You'll notice on your sparkle wool that one side is a little bit more sparkly than the other, so you can choose which one. I think most of us will probably go with the sparkle, more sparkle. So you'll cut your pieces to size, and then we're going to insert the strip. So if you have not done a lot of wool piecing, what you will do is you will do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but make sure you backstitch at both ends, because they tend to open up a little bit. If you happen to cut this along the edge, what I normally do is I just come back and with my sewing machine do a little bar across here so it keeps it from undoing on the edge. Then I always use a little strip stick, and this is a great little pressing mat for seams, and you're going to press your seams open. And I use a little bit of flatter and a steam iron. So press the seam open on both sides, and then you'll be ready to start laying down your applique. So for the applique, for the first week, we are just going to applique all the circles on the background. And they're different sizes, so you can either trace from your pattern, or you can use, if you have our little circle templates, you can use those. You can find the right size for the one that you're doing, and you're going to make freezer paper templates. So I just put them down, draw around, and the nice thing about the freezer paper is that you can reuse them. So you can cut just a few and you can reuse them. So just make, and we'll cut this out on the line and then iron them on all the different greens that you have in your kit. And they're specific colors, and if you look at the pattern, it tells you which color each one is. Then we will pin them all in place. So I like to use little clover applique pins when it comes to for wool. So I'll just pin them in the center like this, and then I'm going to stitch around the edge with a little whip stitch. So my favorite things to use are Ilana wool thread, and I match the color to the circle that I'm stitching down, and I use a 24 chenille needle for that. So we will be what I do is I cut about an 18-inch length, and then I like to double it at the end to thread, and I thread needle to thread. So bring my needle to my thread, and I don't stitch with a double, but just makes it easier to thread, and then I'm going to do a little quilter's knot in the end like this. So if you don't know how to do a quilter's knot, I'll just show you. You're going to take your thread, make a circle with it, and wrap into the circle. The more you wrap, the bigger the knot. So 3 or 4 times is normally good with wool thread. Hold the wraps and then pull it all the way through so that you get a knot at the end. I always like to tell my students this, because they'll come and say, it doesn't work. If you hold it and wrap down the little tail like this, no, it doesn't work. So make sure you bring your thread all the way around and wrap it like that. Okay, so now you will have used the pattern to place all your circles on here, And you can use pins, that's what I recommend mainly, and then we will match the thread. So here I've got this little circle here, so I'm going to come up from the back like this, and I'm using a 24 chenille needle, and I'm going to do, oops, lost my thread. Okay, now you have your, this is the circle that I'm going to applique. I'm going to come up from the back, and I'm going to come up about 1/8 of an inch into the wool circle, and then I'm going to stitch a little whip stitch all the way around the edge. So I do my stitch pretty small. I always say like about 1/8 of an inch deep, 1/8 of an inch apart, like this. But I also put a little bit of tension on every stitch so that it sort of nestles into the wool. So when you stitch like that, it makes the stitch much more invisible than if it's loose. So it's much nicer if it's a little bit tighter. And we're just going to do a little whip stitch all the way around like this. So you can see they look nice. The thread just blends into the wool, and that is my goal, because I don't want the stitch to be very visible, because what I want to show in the end will be the stitch that I do around the outer edge of the little circle. So we'll go around like this. Okay, so I'll just do a few more stitches, because then I'll be around and I'll show you how to end it off. So you can see that it's, you can hardly see it because it's such a good match to our dyed wools. So a little bit about a Lana wool thread. So it is a wool and acrylic blend, 50% of both, and so it's really nice for applique because the acrylic gives it a little bit more strength, so it doesn't shred like 100% wool sometimes can do. And it's about a 12 weight, so it has a little, what I like about it, I always say it coats the edge nicely. Whereas I find sometimes like a cotton thread cuts into the edge and sometimes also gives a little sheen. So here I am, I've been all the way around, so I'm going to take my thread to the back. And at the back, this is how I always end the thread, but you could use your favorite method. I do 3 little stitches very close together, and then I go through the layers. So if I had the wool, I've got a seam there, but I have the wool, then I would just thread it through there so I don't have too much mess on the back. So you can see how nicely it stitches down. You know, one other thing is I never like to use a fusible, and one of the reasons for that is because I always stitch around the outside and do the applique, and then the circles will become dimensional as we start to put the little elements on. So you've got quite a bit of work to do for this week, so get your circles on, and I will be here and ready for next week. So if you need to refer to other videos or written work we have, Creative Stitching has a section in there about wool applique. Also we have on our resource page of our website, so you need to go to the website suspargo.com. There is also on that resource page a written about wool applique, so you can refer back there for that, and we'll give you lots of other resources as well for the stitches as we go along. So have a wonderful week, and I will see you back next week with the start of the applique and the circles.